Now we're moving on to Matthew 5:38 and 42. An eye for an eye. It says, "You have heard that it was said, eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. But I tell you, do not resist an evil person. If anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn them to the other cheek. And if anyone wants to sue you, take your shirt off. Hand over your coat as well. If anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. Give to the one who asks you, and do not turn away from the one who wants to borrow from you." Now, this principle in the Old Testament, it was a legal principle that ensures punishment was proportionate to the crime, not a justification for personal revenge. Now, that was the problem that was occurring. Individuals were seeking personal revenge. Punishment should always fit the crime. Now, let's look at it on the spiritual side. Jesus teaches us insight into responding to evil in personal relationships, advocating for kindness and grace. He instructs his disciples to refrain from resisting evil individuals, opting instead to voluntary acts of kindness, such as turning the other cheek when struck. Jesus' teachings promotes a higher spiritual standard for interpersonal relationships. So in relationships, like we've seen all over when we're looking at the law, is very important when it comes to not only just God, but to others also. Now, turning the other cheek. The biblical examples we have in the Old Testament is David, who spared Saul, Joseph, who forgave his brothers despite their betrayal, and also chose not to retaliate. Now, Jesus himself demonstrated this when struck during his trial and by praying for forgiveness for those crucifying him. The prophecy in Isaiah 53:12 says, which foretells that the Messiah would make intercession for the transgressors, fulfilling Jesus' prayer for the forgiveness of his crucifiers. Now, when we look at this in the 21st century, right now we can make a review on any company that's online. And sometimes there are a lot of negative reviews. And when companies get that, they can respond in a positive and negative way. But it's best to have exceptional customer service and go above and beyond to solve the problem instead of going back and forth with the customer for others to see and not accept the feedback and threaten legal action, which I've seen that quite a few times. It seems like it's getting worse. Usually, I used to see better customer service, but now I do see some responses that go straight to the negative. Now, also, an example would be maybe if a coworker treats you poorly and maybe takes credit for your work that you completed. A positive response would be to be patient and try to talk with that coworker to understand the issue. And also, at the same time, focus on your work and not be resentful and let that build. A negative way to respond would is seek for that person to get fired or shame them in front of others. That's not a good response or a response being led by the Spirit. Now, another example could be in your family or in the church. If someone's having a rough time and is unkind, a positive response would be to be kind and understand that they're having a rough time and maybe even pray for them and show an act of kindness. So, negative would be to be resentful and respond the same way or ignore them, being passive aggressive. And I know that is something that's done often because I've done it myself, kind of ignore, be passive, but that's not the right way to do it. You need to show love.
Yeah, Matthew 5, verse 44, loving your enemies, I think exemplifies Christ's washing of Peter's feet. Not that Peter was his enemy, but the point is, this is how deep the spirit of the law goes, because the letter of the law, certainly we wouldn't love our enemies, but this is how deep we have to go.
Uncover the mystery of Adam and Eve's nakedness. Unravel the ambiguous connection between the Hebrew term for naked and the serpent's subtlety. Join us for this free mini-course and gain a profound new perspective on biblical Hebrew. TheExplanation.com/naked